Hello everyone, my name is Aya, and for my final project, I will be presenting the book slash series of All the Light We Cannot See. So first of all, let me tell you about the book itself. The book is set during World War II, and throughout it, we get details of the war coming together from both of our main characters' perspectives. And as the war progresses, both of our main characters' stories interconnected as Germany occupied the French city called Saint Malo. To put the story together, there's a jewel called the Sea of Flames. It is believed to grant immortality, which explains the motivations of the characters' actions throughout the book as well as the series, and I will be explaining more about this later. Now, on to my next point is the major characters. First, we have Marie-Laure Leblanc. She's the main protagonist, and she's known as the blind French girl who lives in Paris with her father, who is this guy. Later in the book, she begins to wonder about the Sea of Flames as she was entrusted to possess it in the meantime. Then her and her father, also known as the locksmith, because that's his job, he works at this big museum in the city which supposedly has the Sea of Flames. So when he fled flee from Paris. He was one of the people who was granted to guard one of the collection of the Sea of Flames, not knowing if he has like the real diamond or not. Then moving on, there's this guy called Etienne Leblanc. He is the father's brother. He lives in Saint Malo and he gives them a place to stay after fleeing from France. Him and the locksmith bonded in childhood from their dream of broadcasting together, but unfortunately that didn't come true, so that kind of explains their dynamic. Moreover, he's also known as Marie's uncle. She develops a connection to him when her father left her to go back to Paris to settle a business about the diamond. However, her father doesn't come back, so Etienne ends up taking care of her with the maid's help. Then there's this guy named Werner Fienig. He's an orphan in Germany who invents things as well as repair broken materials. Him and Marie are like the main characters in the book. We get like their both of their perspectives from different countries in the book until they both met each other. So Werner joined the Nazi army and he was deported to Saint Malo where he met Marie. Then we have this guy, and he is called Reinhold von Rumpel. He is the antagonist in the book as well as the series. He works as a sergeant major and a gemologist, and he also works for the Nazis. So basically, he was tasked to find the Sea of Flames. But as he continues his search, he doesn't do it for his country no more, but rather for himself out of desperation because he's suffering from cancer and he desperately needs a cure that he believes he will only get from the diamond. Moving on, we have symbols and motifs. First is trunk. In context, when Marie's father made the model, he had her memorize the way of the city and her way home. So one day he would take her out and have her lead him home. So when that happens, she grows more confident to leading her father home, and one day she encounters a trunk outside their house and she calls it her old friend. This symbolizes her loneliness and isolation as she spends most of her time mostly at home and rarely ever interacts with other people, especially people her age. And then another symbol is the model itself that her father made her. This symbolizes the father's role in her life by giving her a chance to learn to navigate the world around her, but also represents the effect of her blindness because it only like limits her to one place and doesn't really it only limits her to only explore one place and learn about only one city. Moving on to a motif, the most obvious one is the Sea of Flames. The book contains a story about a place who apparently stole a diamond which was made by a goddess as a gift to the god of the sea. So the goddess kind of like cursed the diamond, which whoever possessed it would be granted immortality but bring bad luck to their loved ones, such as illness and death. This diamond brings spotlight to humans' greed for power and selfishness, as it highlights the character's motivations to possess it. Lastly, we have radio. It symbolizes unseen connections between different worlds. So the first appearance that it made was when Werner found it and spent his time repairing it at the orphanage. In the series, it began with Marie broadcasting a message to her loved ones while Werner listens to her, not knowing who she was from the beginning, which proves the unseen connections that the radios bring in the book as well as the series. Moving on to the themes, the main one is the role of the children. In the town where Werner lived, boys are required to work in the mines as soon as they turn 15. So this shows that the country is using young boys to fix their problems, such as employment rate. And then later on, Werner was sent to a Nazi training school where the youngest boy was 9 years old, and then the oldest was 17. This was also where he showcased his engineering skills, and the military used it by tasking him to track resistance broadcasts and destroy illegal radio transmissions across France. Another theme is the destruction of war, and due to this, Marie and Werner were brought together. Um, because of this, Marie and her father fled to Saint Malo, where eventually Marie and Werner met. This is also where they both experienced the same thing together, and their lives were fully impacted and in many ways destroyed. Lastly, we have human connections. As I mentioned before, we see unseen connections between characters through radios, but we also see it through their memories and helping each other out. The title itself emphasizes this theme, which is we may not see the light, but it's always there, lingering and linking everyone's lives no matter the distance. But before I move on to the differences, I'd like to point out that both the movie and the series are in third person omniscience, which means that the narrator isn't a character in the story, but rather has access to the thoughts and feelings of multiple characters. Moreover, there is one thing that the series emphasized more than the book did, which was the war itself. The series literally focuses on the war, while the book takes its time to build the characters as well as the plot. One of the differences between the mediums was the relationship of the characters, and the first is between Etienne and Madame Manic, this lady right here. In the novel, Madame Manic is Etienne's personal maid and close friend. However, in the series, they are portrayed as siblings, which completely shifted their dynamic and emotional depth. The next example is the relationship between Marie and Werner. In the novel, their interaction is like more brief and more platonic. However, in the series, it introduces a romantic subplot between the two characters, which overall shifted their connection to each other. Now, for the main difference between the novel and the series is the timeline itself. The novel gradually tells the story in a slower pace where we see more character interactions and development as well as the progression of the plot. However, in the series, it's a bit more focused on the war, which gives the audience a lack of insight to the development of the characters' backstories. So here's a video of one of the parts that actually showed some backstories of the characters, and it's the relationship between Marie and her father, which is significant. Okay. Moving on, these differences highlights the weaknesses of the series more due to its lack of accuracy, alternations of the characters' relationships, the condensed timeline, and the shift in the ending. So overall, these changes also alters the story altogether because when something is different, there's like a whole new picture made. Oh my gosh, that scared me. Um, anyways, with the different timelines, there's less focus on the characters in the series than in the novel, and the audience miss out on creating a complete opinion of the characters. With the characters' relationships changing, there's like a whole new image of their connections to each other. Lastly, the ending of the novel set a tone of uncertainty when Marie's future remains a mystery and Werner's fate ends tragically. However, in the series, it ends in a more hopeful tone where it focuses more on the main characters' connection to each other. Alright. Lastly, the difference between both of the mediums could be explained by the time that the book was written and published because it was written in 2014 and published 9 years later. So I think one of the main reasons was due to budget and also the high competition in the film industry. Alright, now for my overall review. I give this a 3 star out of 5 because I feel like it could have done more. But then again, there are only 4 episodes in the series, which confirms to me that they made this in a hurry, so a lot of things were left out, such as how the main characters grew up, where we could see the gradual unfolding of their stories. Um, Moreover, the series wasn't a proper presentation of the major ideas of the novel, as it missed out a lot of the main ideas from the book, which puzzles the whole plot of the book altogether. And that's it. Thank you for your time.